Topic is the historical black colleges in the 21st century. And of course, we're talking to the founder of the Africana Studies Department at Tennessee State University and the chairman of that party, Dr. AAl-Hadid3. And of course, Dr. AAl-Hadid3, let's give you an opportunity over the last few minutes that we have during this segment to sort of continue our conversation, but bring the historical black colleges into the 21st century and give us some directions in terms of how we ought to move from this particular period.
Yes. Well, let's say this, Dr. Haney. The question, I guess, is where do we go from here? Now, in the 1960s, people like Christopher Jenks and others were saying that the historically black colleges, or at that time we called Negro colleges, they were finished. And they were saying that they were finished because integration was creating a brain drain at these historical black colleges. I know, for example, that by the creation of the Black Studies programs in the Department of White Schools, a lot of those initial programs in the department were staffed by people who had been on the faculty at historical black colleges. Nathan Hare, for example, was at Howard, and he was the one who went to San Francisco State and created the first Black Studies department in the country. Sear Lincoln, for example, was at Fisk, and he was brought. We also know about John Hope Franklin and some other. So a lot of our old guard scholars were at these historical black colleges, and they were taken to the white schools. Now, my position in terms of where do we go from here with these colleges, we obviously need to change the curriculum and make it a curriculum that is African-centered. You might have read in the paper about the students at Tennessee State talking about requiring 3 to 9 hours in the core curriculum for students at Tennessee State. I support that wholeheartedly because that is a step in the right direction. The students that come to our schools, whether they go to Tennessee State or they go to Fisk or they go to Morehouse or Spell, they know very little about themselves. They know everything about others and things, but very little about themselves. In other words, they're basically culturally illiterate as far as their own culture is concerned. So that when they come to historical black colleges, they come there expecting to learn something about their history, their culture, and to work through their identity issues. And historical black colleges should provide them with that type of academic and intellectual experience. Now, once you refocus the curriculum, then the next thing we have to do is start developing relationships with Caribbean countries and African countries, because and the Africana Studies Department of Tennessee State, we're working now on a study abroad program in Ethiopia, where we can send our students to Ethiopia, Ethiopian students come to Tennessee State. We can send faculty over, and their faculty can come here. So we start talking about the basic issues of development. So once we understand development in the national context, in terms of the African countries, we can take those same principles and deal with developments in the inner cities inside of America. So no one is going to help us but us. Maybe I can draw a phrase from Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington once said, "Cast down your bucket where you are." And he was saying what he meant by that, rather than begging and asking other people to help you with your economic issues, you should do for yourself. Don't ask other people to do for you what you can do for yourself. And once you go to college, you should have the ability to be self-employed. A college-educated person should have 2 options. One, self-employment, or working for other people, you see. And that's the kind of option that these historically black colleges you need to provide our students with. Because once you matriculate at historical black colleges for 4 years, you're wearing your dreadlocks, you claiming your cultural identity, and then when you go into corporate America, they tell you cut your dreadlocks off and look like Madison Avenue All-American, then you compromise and you're selling out, you see. And so we have to stop setting up our young people to sell out once they go to corporate America by giving them another option, giving them the option of self-employment. So if they don't like the politics or the racism in corporate America, they can say, hey, forget that. I'll tender my, you don't have to fire me. I'll tender my resignation and go somewhere on the Jefferson Street corridor and open up my own business and be in control of a mode of production. I'm not going to give my surplus value to you if you don't respect me as a human being. And so that's what I think historical black colleges can do.
And so these institutions still can and do serve a real significant purpose in
absolutely,
not only among African Americans but among
in the world.
In the world.
And I'll say that with great pride, because you have to remember that back in the early days when those African countries became independent, like Kenya and Ghana, they were going to Tuskegee to get a model of how you develop a university in Kenya, how you develop a university in Jamaica. Remember when Marcus Garvey came here, he was going to meet the sage of Tuskegee because he wanted to take that model that Booker T. Washington developed in Tuskegee, take it back to Jamaica so he could develop a curriculum based on self-reliance there in Jamaica.
And these institutions can still serve as a model today to the entire, not only the world, but specifically to the African continent, where there is a tremendous need for some kind of model and some kind of leadership.
Well, in America today, the only place that African Americans can go to study in a college without being subject to racism and prejudice is historical black college. You don't have to worry about being discriminated against. You don't have to worry about racism. You don't have to worry about prejudice. All the thing you have to worry about is doing your homework and going to the library and being a legitimate human being. It provides that type of environment. Not only does it provide that kind of environment for African American students, but when white students come to African American college, they get a human experience. They are not discriminated against. You're not going to find somebody burning a cross in front of the door like you found at some of the
And Dr. AAl-Hadid, let me call it an end to this conversation at this particular time.
Yes, sir.
And to thank you for coming by and to encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. And thank you and good morning.
Okay.
Tonya, you just